Gopal Gopinath Shyam Kund Radha Kund Giri Govardhan ki jai, Vrindavan Dham ki jai, Navadvip Mayapur Dham ki jai, Ganga Mai ki jai, Jamuna Mai ki jai, Tulsi Devi ki jai, Bhakti Devi ki jai, Samaveta Bhakta Vrinda ki jai, Gaur Premanande.
Hari Hari Bol.
All glories to the assembled devotees.
Hare Krishna.
All glories to the assembled devotees.
Hare Krishna.
All glories to the assembled devotees.
Hare Krishna.
All glories to Sri Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga. Hari Hari Bol. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Shami Iti Namane. Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirbishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo
Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Looks like you're having trouble determining what verse it is. It's a before this, a little before. It was the where he was just came to the astrologer there. One more up. A little more up. Yeah, one more. More. Okay. Up above. Okay. Okay.
Is that 112, Prabhu?
111, I think it is. Oh, are you doing this? Okay.
108, I thought.
Is that right, Mother Shobha Radhe?
I thought it was 108.
Yeah, 108 sounds good. Yeah, 108.
But Mother Shobha Radhe, are you doing it or am I?
No, you please do it.
Okay. Yeah, 108. Thank you. Do we have, is Shashi Shekhar Prabhu there?
I don't see him. Chatterjee Prabhu is here. Narasimha Prabhu is there.
Oh, okay. Yeah, native Bengali. Would you perhaps recite the Bengali there in the string of Prahlad Ishwar Prabhu?
Yes, Prabhuji.
Thank you so much.
Should I start?
Yes.
Hare Krishna. Purve janme chila tumi jagoto asray Paripurno Bhagavan Sarvo Ishwarjomoy.
Thank you so much.
Hare Krishna.
My dear sir, in your previous birth, you were the shelter of all creation, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, full of all opulences.
Purve jaicha chila tumi ebaho sarupo durbigaya nityanando tomaro sarupo.
You are now the same Supreme Personality of Godhead that you were in your previous birth. Your identity is inconceivable, eternal happiness. Purport. By the power of astrological science, one can even ascertain the position of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Everything is to be identified by its symptoms. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is identified by the symptoms mentioned in the Shastras. It is not that anyone and everyone can become God without proof from Shastras. Om Agyana Timirandhasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Jena Tasmai Gurave Nama Sri Chaitanyam Anobhishtam Sthapitam Jena Bhutale Shayam Rupakadamayam Dadati Shapandantikam. Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivashadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Before speaking, I need the permission and blessings of the devotees, and especially those who are senior by age or by Krishna consciousness progress. Please, please. Thank you, thank you. Hare Krishna. So this is the, what was the astrologer's name? You don't remember? Sarvagya, Sarvadrik. Yeah. So he came to the house of Caitanya Mahaprabhu, and then apparently he did his horoscope, is it? And then meditating on this or contemplating his Lord Chaitanya's position, what was he in his previous birth? He saw the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the source of the Brahma Jyoti, all the spiritual and material planets, universes and planets coming up, emanating from him. So this is very interesting. Srila Prabhupada mentions in the first line of the purport that by the power of astrological science, one can even understand the position of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That's quite an amazing statement. So apparently this astrologer was able to do that. Another point was that because he was a devotee of the Lord. So it's not possible for ordinary persons to be able to understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The verse is there. Ata Shri Krishna Namadi Na Bhaved Grayam Indriyai Sevan Mukhed Jivadao Swayam Eva Sparatyadao. That Lord Krishna, his name, etc., form, qualities, can't be approached or understood by materially blunt senses, but he is approachable and understandable by purified senses that are engaged in his service, beginning with the tongue, chanting and taking prasadam. So apparently this astrologer was a purified soul. Therefore, in his research and study of Caitanya Mahaprabhu's horoscope, he realized this he could understand, and in vision, this was the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So I have a question for you. You know, there's a verse that goes, Aradhananam sarvesham. You know this verse? Vishnu aradhana param, tasmat parataram devi, tadiyanam samarchanam. Of all kinds of worship, this is Lord Shiva speaking to his wife, that's Devi here, Parvati. Of all kinds of worship of Lord Vishnu is best. Vishnu aradhana param. Param means top. Tasmat parataram devi, but even better than worship of Vishnu. What can be better than worship of Vishnu? Tadiyanam samarchanam. Tadiyanam. You know the word tadiyanam. What does that mean?
Devotee?
Who's that? Mother? Is that Mother Madhavi Garangi?
Suman.
Very good. Very good. Very good.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
sometimes Srila Prabhupada would translate it his devotees. It's often translated that. It's also, I mean, there's a technical meaning is those things that are in relation to Vishnu, associated with Vishnu. His you know, like his paraphernalia, everything. Both things are often translated. So the question might be, is the horoscope of the Supreme Personality of Godhead have the potency of the Supreme Lord? Is that part of the Tadiya?
Can I ask you the question again, please, Prabhuji?
Oh, you didn't get that question? Okay. So here we have this astrologer's his thinking about or meditating on Lord Caitanya with his horoscope, and then he sees the Supreme Personality of Godhead in his thoughts and his meditation. So one could conjecture that since the Supreme Personality of Godhead is absolute, everything associated with him, Tadiya, has his potency, so is his horoscope have the potency of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. What would you say?
Yes.
I would say yes.
Yes, yes,
Okay.
I will say yes.
Okay, so this is so ordinarily, usually when someone does, when somebody studies a horoscope of a regular person, ordinary person, there are certain planetary positions and certain lunar mansions and certain signs, and they contemplate it, and in contemplating it, they come to an understanding of, their past, present, and future. So in this case, this astrologer is contemplating the horoscope of Lord Chaitanya, and because, on one sense, because that horoscope defines Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, it's as good as Krishna, and he's able to realize that simply by studying the horoscope. It's quite interesting. So then, that same horoscope was given earlier in the Caitanya Charitamrita by Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur in his Amrita Prabha Bhashya. It's described there. So this is very interesting. But the important point here is that he was that the astrologer was a devotee, because otherwise, how can he understand? Krishna is not understandable by anyone than by devotional service. So he must have been devotee, and we'll see that. There was one instance many years ago when one of the gurus in ISKCON was hit on the head by a angry person, and he had some serious head injury. So they brought him to a hospital, and they did some CT scans, or they sometimes call CAT scans. Have you seen CAT scans? And then some people were saying, oh, the CAT scans, you'll see that there in the CAT scan is Lord Nrsingadev, they say. So Srila Prabhupada's godbrother Sridhar Maharaj said, oh, then we must offer our obeisances to the CAT scan machine. Because to detect the Supreme Personality of Godhead, you have to be an elevated devotee. You can't just do it on a material level. So that's the other side. So here, this is very interesting that this astrologer, being a devotee, he could understand the characteristics of the Supreme Personality of Godhead through studying his horoscope. Questions, comments, observations, corrections? This subject of astrology is sometimes somewhat controversial within ISKCON and outside of ISKCON. Prananath Prabhu.
So this is also coming from Shastras, right, Prabhu?
Yes. Good point. The astrological science is a Jyotirved. It's not something that somebody just made up, but it's an authorized process to understand. Good point. Important point. Yeah. Whereas the CAT scan is not necessarily coming from the Shastra as a detective device. Srila Prabhupada mentioned in the prior purport, I think, about the Bhrigu Shastra. The Bhrigu Shastra. So comments on astrology is that sometimes Prabhupada downplayed it, but sometimes he also said, if the weather forecast is rain, you take an umbrella. Very practical, very practical. So I don't know if anyone here has visited or gone to a Bhrigu Shastri. There are various Bhrigu Shastri centers in India. But the way I understand it is there's this Bhrigu Shastra is a set of codes, long codes, and one goes to this Bhrigu Shastri, and gives your information, and then they meditate and study the codes, and they find a code in that Bhrigu Shastra that relates to you, and then from that they can extrapolate what your previous life was, your current life, and your future life will be. Of course, just like in anything, there's people who try to take advantage and try to charge you lots of money, even though they don't know the science. But astrological science is a valid science, although in Kali Yuga it's not well understood. There are many people who don't understand it or misrepresent it to a great degree.
You're there in Rajasthan.
Is that Krishna Kirtan, Prabhu?
Yes, brother.
Are you speaking, commenting?
Yeah, it is there in Rajasthan. And also I heard one in South India, Bhrigu Samhita.
Yeah, there's one in Puri, there's one in North India, Hoshiarpur. There's many places where they do. But you have to be very careful about it. Actually, one Bhrigu Shastri came to the United States and was speaking, and some people told me I should go, so I went. So I asked the Bhrigu Shastri, can you tell me when I will die? They didn't want to do that. So, okay.
So what about the devotees, Prabhuji, who are in ISKCON and they are I know devotees who are astrologer and they do this work of astrology for the devotees and others also. So how to go about it? What are your thoughts and comments on it?
Some may have good understanding and some may not. I've dealt with both kinds of devotees. You just have to be careful. The first thing, like Lord Chaitanya is saying, what was I in my previous life? You can tell me. So one thing that one does to find out whether the astrologer knows their stuff is to ask them, tell me about what's already happened in my life. And so if they can make that, if that's accurate, then you can have pretty good conclusion that the future predictions might also be accurate. Does that make sense?
Yes, Prabhu. Thank you.
Yeah. Hare Krishna. Next verse.
Prabhu, can you scroll up? Yeah. Prabhu Hashi Koila Tumi Kichuna Janela Urbe Ami Achilang Jatite Goala.
When the astrologer was speaking so highly of him, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu stopped him and began to smile. My dear sir, he said, I think you do not know very clearly what I was, for I know that in my previous birth, I was a cowherd boy.
Gopo Grihe Janmo Chilo Gavir Rakhal Shei Punne Hoilang Ebe Brahmana Chawal.
In my last birth, I was born in the family of cowherd men. And I gave protection to the calves and cows. And because of such pious activities, I have now become the son of a Brahmin. Purport. The words of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the greatest authority herein, clearly indicate that one becomes pious simply by keeping cows and protecting them. Unfortunately, people have become such rascals that they do not even care about the words of an authority. People generally consider cowherd men lowly members of society, but herein Chaitanya Mahaprabhu confirms that they are so pious that in their next lives they're going to be brahmanas. The caste system has a specific purpose. If this scientific system is followed, human society will get the greatest benefit. Heeding this instruction by the Lord, people should serve cows and calves, and in return, get ample quantities of milk. there is no loss in serving the cows and the calves, but modern society has become so degraded that instead of giving protection to the cows and serving them, people are killing them. How can they expect peace and prosperity in human society while committing such sinful activities? It is impossible. So this aspect of cow protection, it's not only here mentioned that it's especially a function of the Vaishya class, Krishi Gorakshavani Jam, Vaishya Karma Swabhava Jam, but it's a responsibility for all of human society as well. And by doing that, it creates auspiciousness, an opportunity for spiritual progress. And on the converse, by not doing that, it degrades society into a society of fighting, continual miserable warfare as a result of the bad result of slaughtering many, many millions of cows every week. So Caitanya Mahaprabhu particularly mentioned this. We'll see this in his discussion and speaking with Chand Kazi. He specifically pointed out right from the beginning the defect of that current interpretation, the interpretation of the Quran that was prevalent at the time, that one part of religious practice was to kill the cow and the bull. We're reading just shortly before in the Srimad Bhagavatam that Parikshit Maharaj was ready to kill Kali personified because of his beating the legs of the cow and the bull. But such things have degraded so much that not only do they not protect it, but they're slaughtered wholesale. And of course, there'll be repercussions. So the prayer we always say is Namo Brahmanya Devaya Go Brahman Hitaya Cha Jagat Hitaya Krishnaya Govindaya Namo Namaha. So Lord Krishna as Govinda is cited as the well-wisher of the whole universe, Jagat Hitaya Krishna, but specifically mentioned are the Go and the Brahman, the cows and the Brahmins. And even before the Brahmins, the cows are mentioned, even before the Brahmins. Go Brahman Hitaya Cha. So the people go first is very important. And if you remember, when the residents of Vrindavan were celebrating Govardhan Puja, do you remember this? At a certain point in the celebration, they circumambulated Govardhan. Perhaps some of you have circumambulated Govardhan as well. And who did they put in front of the procession? The cows. The cows went first. Usually, the most respected person comes first. The cows went first in their circumambulating of Govardhan. So cows give milk, which is sanctifies the finer tissues in the brain, Srila Prabhupada mentions, that helps us understand spiritual life. So does that mean that those who don't, for whatever reason, drink milk, the finer tissues don't develop or have milk products?
In
The
India,
converse?
Pravesham also, they send the cow first.
Yes.
Housewarming. Housewarming we do.
So in ISKCON, although we're not, we know that there are many vegan preparations that can be prepared and offered to Krishna, but we're not a supporter of pure vegan society, because then what are you going to do with the cows? Keep cows and slaughter them, or give them to no? So Krishna, Lord Krishna, he likes milk products prepared for him and prepared and offered in love. When there was the Govardhan Puja, he said, prepare, sweet rice. Well, you say paramanna or payash. Rasagulla, gulab jamun, these things. Prepare all these things because Krishna likes those. Things cooked in ghee are first class, all coming from the cow. So, of course, in Philadelphia, we give some support to the cow protection by purchasing the milk from the Gitanagari cows. That's very commendable. And that can go on too. And one can also support cows in various ways in different places too. So Lord Chaitanya is mentioning that in his previous life he was a cowboy, and now he's a Brahmin. Text 112.
সর্বজ্ঞ কহে আমি তাহা ধ্যানে দেখিলাম তাহাতে ঐশ্বর্য দেখি ফাফরও হইলাম.
The astrologer said, what I saw in meditation was full of opulence, and therefore I was confused. Purport, it appears that the astrologer not only was a knower of past, present, and future through astrological calculation, but was a great meditator as well. Therefore, he was a great devotee and could see Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to be the same personality as Krishna. He was puzzled, however, about whether Krishna and Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu were actually the same person. Text 113. Nishringa Praladishwar still there, or are you not there anymore? I guess not. She rupe, e rupe, deki ekakar, kabu bheda deki e mayaya toma. I am certain that your form and the form I saw in my meditation are one and the same. If I see any difference, this is an act of your illusory energy. Purport. Sri Krishna Chaitanya, Radha Krishna Nahe Anya. In the vision of a perfect devotee, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is a combination of Radha and Krishna. One who sees Lord Chaitanya to be different from Krishna is under the illusory energy of the Lord. It appears that the astrologer was already an advanced devotee, and when he came into the presence of the Supreme Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he became perfectly self-realized and could see that the Supreme Personality of Godhead Krishna and Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu are one and the same person. Text 114.
যে হও সে হও তুমি তোমাকে নমস্কার প্রভু তারে প্রেম দিয়া কইল পুরস্কার.
The all-knowing astrologer concluded, whatever you may be, or whoever you may be, I offer my respectful obeisances to you. By his causeless mercy, the Lord then gave him love of Godhead, thus rewarding him for his service. Purport. The incident of Lord Chaitanya's meeting the all-knowing astrologer is not mentioned in the Chaitanya Bhagavat, but we cannot therefore say that it did not take place. On the contrary, we must accept the statement of Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami that whatever the Chaitanya Bhagavat did not mention, he has especially mentioned in the Caitanya Caritamrita. He said he's just like eating the crumbs left by Vrindavan Das Thakur. That's how it is. So what was the service that the astrologer Sarvagya did for Lord Chaitanya? It says rewarding him for his service. What service was that? Nobody, come on. Is everybody at work already?
Rewarding in service.
Rewarding him for his service. Says there at the last line, yeah. So what service did this astrologer perform?
he also did the astrological service for the Lord, right?
Yeah,
that-
yeah. He attempted to do his to read and interpret his horoscope. So even though Lord Chaitanya corrected him, saying, "Oh, you're the Supreme Personality of Godhead." No, actually, I was just a cowherd boy in my previous life. Even though Lord Chaitanya said that, still he appreciated his service, and not only that, he gave him love of Godhead. So he was making his effort to do the service for the Supreme Personality of Godhead. It may be correct or incorrect, but the point is that to do the service, isn't it? To do the best of your ability. Go ahead.
My understanding is that Lord Chaitanya was beginning itself was showering his mercy unto him. It is a kind of relationship. He knows what he is, and in the sense that he's revealing his identity to the astrologer. The purpose of having this itself is to show his mercy unto him.
Yes, you're correct. Lord Chaitanya didn't need an astrologer to tell him who he was.
Yeah.
But he asked him to do this exercise for the purpose, as you mentioned, of giving him a benediction, to give him love of God. And by doing this, coming before him and asking him to do this was a way for him to use his talents in his service, but also to get the benediction of the Lord. Makes sense. Yes. Text 115.
একদিন মহাপ্রভু মণ্ডপে বসিয়া মধু মধু আনো বলেন ডাকিয়া।
One day.
একদিন মহাপ্রভু।
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I thought you said that already. Ekdin Prabhu, yeah.
একদিন প্রভু বিষ্ণু মণ্ডপে বসিয়া মধু আনো বলেন ডাকিয়া।
Madhu Ana, bring honey. Yeah. One day the Lord sat down in the corridor of a Vishnu temple and began calling very loudly, "Bring some honey, bring some honey." Text 116. Seems like the Sringa Praladeshwar might have some difficulties staying connected.
I can read, Prabhu.
Okay, go ahead. Yeah.
Vishnunanda Goshai Prabhur Abesh Janilo, Ganga Jal Patra Ani Shurmukhe Dhorilo.
Thank you. Nityananda Prabhu Goshani, understanding the ecstatic mood of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, brought a pot of Ganges water as a token and put it before him.
জলপান করিয়া নাচে হয় বিউভল যমুনা কর্ষণ লীলা দেখায় সকল।
After drinking the water, Lord Chaitanya became so ecstatic that he began to dance. Thus, everyone saw the pastime of attracting the river Jamuna. Purport. Jamuna Karshan Lila is the pastime of attracting the Jamuna. One day, Sri Baladev wanted the Jamuna River to come before him. And when the river Jamuna refused, he took his plow, wanting to dig a canal so that the Jamuna would be obliged to come there. Since Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is the original form of Baladev, in his ecstasy, he asked everyone to bring honey. In this way, all the devotees standing there saw the Jamuna Karshan Lila. In this Lila, Baladev was accompanied by his girlfriends. After drinking a honey beverage called Baruni, he wanted to jump into the Jamuna and swim with the girls. It is stated in Srimad Bhagavatam 10:65, 25, 30, 33 that Lord Baladev asked the Jamuna to come near, and when the river disobeyed the order of the Lord, he became angry and thus wanted to snatch her near to him with his plow. The Jamuna, however, very much afraid of Lord Balaram's anger, immediately came and surrendered unto him, praying to the Lord, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and admitting her fault. She was then excused. This is the sum and substance of the Jamuna Karshan Lila. This incident is also described in the prayer of Jayadev Goswami concerning the 10 incarnations. Vahasiva Pushi Vishade Vashanam Jaladabam Halahati Bhiti Milita Jamunabham Keshavadrita Haladhara Rupa Jai Jagadisha Hare. Lord Chaitanya, enacting the pastime of Jamuna Karshan Lila, is calling for honey. So this is one of the reasons that on the appearance day of Lord Balaram, devotees are requested or encouraged to bring offerings of honey to the Lord, for the temple, to the Lord, for the pleasure of Sri Balaram. So this Jamuna Karshan Lila is an interesting pastime. Actually, there's sometimes, at least in our mind, we get confused because there's 2 times that Lord Balaram used his plow to bring a river close by. Do you know the other time?
Yeah, when you
Yes. Yeah.
Go ahead, Mother Madhavi Gaurangi.
Yeah, Hare Krishna Prabhu. During the wedding of Samba and Lakshmana, when Kurus disrespected him, he went there just to patch up between both the parties, but they disrespected him. And at that time, to show them his power, he just snatched the Yamuna river he wanted to drown the Hastinapur in the river. At that time, it happened too.
Yeah, but actually, that's very good. But one thing is, that was the Ganges River. Because the Ganges is near Hastinapur.
Okay.
And the Jamuna was near Indraprastha.
Okay.
In the Vrindavan. Yeah. So this is in Vrindavan. I thought it's a very interesting pastime. I was going to read some parts of this, if you don't mind, from the Srimad Bhagavatam. Jamuna Karshan Lila. One day, let's see, this is Shukadeva Goswami said, "O best of the Kurus, once Lord Balaram, eager to visit his well-wishing friends, mounted his chariot and traveled to Nanda Gokul." So he was in Dwarka. So then there's some commentary there. Srila Jiva Goswami points out Lord Balaram's journey to Sri Vrindavan is also described in the Harivangsha. You know the Harivangsha? You know the Harivamsa? It's a commentary or passages from the Mahabharata that focus on Hari, the Hari and his Vangsha. Because the Mahabharata focuses primarily on the activities of the Pandavas. But within, laced in with that activities are Lord Krishna's activities. So Harivamsa describes more focused on Hari's activities at the same time. So this verse is there in the Harivamsa. Remembering the deep friendship he once enjoyed with the cowherd folk, Lord Balaram went alone to Vraj, having taken Lord Krishna's permission. The simple residents of Vrindavan were aggrieved that Lord Krishna had gone to live elsewhere, so Lord Balaram went there to console them. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur addresses the question of why Lord Krishna, the great ocean of love, did not also go to Vrindavan. So why do you think? Balaram came to Vrindavan, but Lord Krishna didn't come to Vrindavan. He could have gone along with him, right? What happened? What happened? How come he didn't go? Anyone?
Because Krishna, Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Yeah.
I don't know whether I'm right. Because Krishna never left Vrindavan. He was there always.
That's a good point.
Vasudev.
That's a good point. He was there in his unmanifested form, yeah. So Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, he explains this. The Yadus thought the Lord's beloved girlfriends are famous for their pure ecstatic love, and his parents are extremely affectionate toward him. Lord Krishna is controlled by pure love. So if he goes to see them, how will he be able to leave them and come back to us? With this in mind, the Yadus prevented Lord Hari from going, knowing that he becomes subservient to the pastimes in which he reciprocates the ever-increasing love of the inhabitants of Braj. So you got that? So how come Lord Krishna didn't go along? What was that? Did you get it?
Yeah, yes, Prabhuji.
What was the reason?
Because he wanted to give the Vipralalambha bhav to the gopis still, maybe.
Well, that's not what that Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur said. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, what did he say?
Because everyone loves, all the devotees love Krishna so much that Krishna's goal was to serve the devotees, so he thought he wouldn't leave because of that love that was there for him in Vrindavan.
Right. Thank you, Bob. That the residents of Dwarka were worried that if Krishna goes there to Vrindavan, there's the devotees there, he has such love for them and they have such love for him, he may never come back, so better stop him from going. That's what Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, and of course what you said also, the Vipralamba Seva, and etc. But we'll find later, after Lord Krishna killed Shalva, which occurred in Dwarka, Narad Muni came to him and he said that, there's another demon who is a friend of Shalva who's just itching to fight with you. He wants to kill you. And that demon was also a friend of Shishupal. And what was his name? Right after that was Dantavakra. Dantavakra. But Dantavakra didn't live nearby Dwarka, he lived nearby Mathura. So when Narada Muni told him about Dantavakra was itching to have a fight with him, Lord Krishna at that time took permission from the residents of Dwarka for business purposes. Business purposes, it's okay. You can go. So he was allowed to go to take care of Dantavakra. But then there's a little town outside Mathura called Dantiha. That's where Dantavakra was killed. So taking the opportunity, being so close by Vrindavan, after his liberation of Dantavakra, Lord Krishna visited Vrindavan again. It's not mentioned in the Srimad Bhagavatam, only in the purports by Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. So the same attitude was there of the residents of Dwarka. They didn't want him to go, but for business purposes, they said, okay, it's all right. But Lord Krishna took advantage a little bit. So Jamuna Karshana Lila, let's go ahead. Then, having long suffered the anxiety of separation, the cowherd men and their wives embraced Lord Balaram. And then the Lord offered respect to his parents and then joyfully greeted them with prayers. Oh, this is at Vrindavan. Nanda and Yashoda prayed, O descendant of Dashadha, O Lord of the universe, may you and your younger brother Krishna ever protect us. Saying this, they raised Lord Balaram unto their laps, embraced him, and moistened him with tears of their eyes. Lord Balaram then paid proper respects to the elder cowherd men, and the younger ones all greeted him respectfully. He met them with smiles, handshakes. So apparently you can shake the hand of God also, and so on, dealing personally with each one according to age, degree of friendship, and family relationship. Then, after resting, the Lord accepted a comfortable seat and they all gathered around him. With voices faltering out of love for him, those cowherds who had dedicated everything to lotus-eyed Krishna, asked about the health of their dear ones in Dwarka, and Balaram, in turn, asked about the cowherd's welfare. The cowherd said, "Oh, Ram, are all our relatives doing well? And Ram, do you all, with your wives and children, still remember us? It is our great fortune that sinful Kamsa has been killed and our dear relatives have been freed. And it is also our good fortune that our relatives have killed and defeated their enemies and found complete security in a great fortress." What is that great fortress? What is that great fortress? Come on. What it? Nobody?
The demon is killed, right?
Are you not following? Come on. The great fortress is Dwarka. Right. They found security in the great fortress, Dwarka. Shukadeva Goswami continued, honored to have the personal audience of Lord Balaram, the young gopis smiled and asked him, is Krishna the darling of the city women living happily? Does he remember his family members, especially his father and mother? Do you think he will ever come back, even once, to see his mother? And does mighty armed Krishna remember the service we all did for him? For Krishna's sake, O descendant of Dasharath, we abandoned our mothers, fathers, husbands, brothers, children, and sisters, even though these family relations are difficult to give up. But now, O Lord, that same Krishna has abandoned us and gone away, breaking off all affectionate ties with us. And yet, how could any woman fail to trust his promises? How can intelligent city women possibly trust the words of one whose heart is so unsteady and who is so ungrateful? They must believe him because he speaks so wonderfully and also because of his beautiful smiling glances. Why bother talking about him, dear Gopi? Please talk of something else. If he passes his time without us, then we shall similarly pass ours without him. While speaking these words, the young cowherd women remembered Lord Shauri's laughter, that's Krishna's, his pleasing conversations with them, his attractive glances, his style of walking, his loving embraces, and thus they began to cry. Then the Supreme Lord Balaram, the attractor of all, being expert in various kinds of conciliation, consoled the gopis by relaying to them the confidential messages Lord Krishna had sent with him. These messages deeply touched the gopis' hearts. So Lord Krishna sent some messages just for them. Lord Balaram, the personality of Godhead, resided there for 2 months of Madhu and Madhava, and during the nights, he gave the cowherd girlfriends conjugal pleasure. In the company of numerous women, Lord Balaram enjoyed in a garden by the Jamuna River. This garden was bathed in the rays of the full moon and caressed by breezes bearing the fragrance of night-blooming lotuses. So he's having the rasa dance there, Balaram rasa. So question may come, we thought these gopis were the servants and the followers of Krishna, but now it seems like they're dancing with Balaram. What about that?
There are different gopis for Lord Balaram and Lord Krishna.
Yes, very good, very good. So these were a different set of gopis, and some of them were younger, much younger to participate in Lord Krishna's previous rasa dance. So now they're getting the opportunity. So Lord Krishna and Balaram are training up cadres of gopis in the service of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Thank you. So sent by the demigod Varuna, the divine Varuni liquor flowed from a tree hollow and made the entire forest even more fragrant with its aroma. The wind carried to Balaram the fragrance of the flood of sweet liquor. And when he smelled it, he went to the tree, and there he and his female companions drank. As the Gandharvas sang his glories, Lord Balaram enjoyed within the brilliant circle of young women. He appeared just like Indra's elephant, the lordly Airavata, enjoying in the company of she-elephants. At the time, kettle drums resounded in the sky. The Gandharvas joyfully rained down flowers, and the great sages praised Lord Balaram's heroic deeds. As his deeds were sung, Lord Halayudha wandered as if inebriated among the various forests with his girlfriends. His eyes rolled from the effects of the liquor. Intoxicated with joy, Lord Balaram sported flower garlands, including the famous Vaijayanti. He wore a single earring, and beads of perspiration decorated his smiling face like snowflakes. The Lord then summoned the Jamuna River so that he could play in her waters. But she disregarded his command, thinking he was drunk. This angered Lord Balaram, and he began dragging the river with the tip of his plow. Lord Balaram said, "Oh, sinful one, disrespecting me, you do not come when I call you, but rather move only by your own whim. Therefore, with the tip of my plow, I shall bring you here in 100 streams." Thus scolded by the Lord, the frightened river goddess Jamuna came and fell at the feet of Sri Balaram, the beloved descendant of Jadu. Trembling, she spoke to him the following words: "Ram, Ram, O mighty armed one, I know nothing of your prowess. With a single portion of yourself, you hold up the earth, O Lord of the universe. Please release me, O soul of the universe. I didn't understand your position as the supreme Godhead, but now I have surrendered unto you, and you are always kind to your devotees." Thereupon, Lord Balaram released the Jamuna and, like the king of the elephants with his entourage of she-elephants, entered the river water with his female companions. The Lord then played in the water to his full satisfaction, and when he came out, goddess Kanti, who's actually Lakshmi, presented him with blue garments, precious ornaments, and a brilliant necklace. Lord Balaram then dressed himself in the blue garments and put on the gold necklace. Anointed with fragrances and beautifully adorned, he appeared as resplendent as Indra's royal elephant. Even today, O king, one can see how the Jamuna River flows through many channels created when it was dragged by the unlimitedly powerful Lord Balaram. Thus she demonstrates his prowess. Thus for Lord Balaram, all the nights passed like a single night as he enjoyed in Braj, his mind enchanted by the exquisite charm and beauty of the Vraja young ladies. Hare Krishna. Jamuna Karshana Lila, Lord Balaram ki jai. Hare Krishna. I just thought we should read that since it's mentioned here. Vahasi vapusi vishade vasanam jaladamam halahati bhiti militi jamunabham. Keshavadrita haladhara rupa jaya jagadisha hare. Hare Krishna. Comments, questions, comments, observations, corrections. Krishna Kirtan Prabhu.
Thank you so much. I was thinking sometimes it's easy to understand Krishna's tattva. It's very difficult to understand Balaram's pastimes. And the previous verse itself, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu manifested the pastimes of Balaram. I mean, previous verse. So he's not different. He's not different than him. And we had this discussion in the past as well. How come, Krishna supports Arjuna and Balaram, Balaram wanted to get Subhadra married, Duryodhan's, get Subhadra married to Duryodhan, how this thing happening. So we can understand that it's all Lord's pastime, and it's bewildering to devotees also many times. Not many times, all the time, through his activities.
If Lord Krishna's pastimes aren't wonderful and sometimes bewildering, then he wouldn't be God.
Yeah.
We have our small brains, and he's inconceivably wonderful to our small brains. So sometimes we have to we just accept what's going on.
Yeah, same. I was thinking with tiny brain, I'm thinking why I'm not able to understand. So limitation of our capacity also. This certainly Balaram's activities only can be, one thing I can understand, that Balaram's activities can be only heard by devotees only. Because materialist people, they will find fault. And
because he's drinking this Varuni beverage?
Yeah, the way, when this Kuvera's sons, when Kuvera's sons were drinking wine, and similar description was given, their eyes was rolling, and after they're drinking wine, and Nadamuni cursed. So in the material platform, this is condemned. But the Lord is the supreme enjoyer, and he cannot be compared with ordinary people. On the other hand, when the Lord comes to teach the human society by his own example, but at the same time, he also performs pastimes to show he the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Superhuman activity performs. So that way, yes, my understanding, this should be heard only by devotees. It's only for devotees, advanced devotees.
Especially for devotees, yeah. One of the, difficulties last week was the appearance anniversary of Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur. And when the Christian missionaries were first doing their proselytizing in India, they particularly focused on aspects of Lord Krishna's life that, from a material standpoint, seems immoral. Stealing butter. What kind of God steals butter? What kind of God tells a truthful king like Yudhishthir to lie? This is their this was their attack. And so there was a group of people who were Hindus at that time who accommodating this kind of thought, they couldn't understand how Krishna's activities are on the transcendental level. Not Krishna can steal, but everything is belonging to him. So his stealing is pastime, as you mentioned. So, but because they couldn't understand that, they decided there are different Krishnas. The Krishna of the Puranas they rejected, but the Krishna of the Bhagavad Gita will accept. The stories are just myths. Somebody made them up. Krishna dancing with the gopis, that's myth. We reject that. We don't accept that. The same thing holds true in Christianity. I was looking at where my ancestors came from in the British Isles, and one of the places they came from was King's Lynn, a little town on the eastern seaboard of Great Britain. And they used to have a patron saint there from like 600 AD. And she was there was a woman. She was especially noted because she had killed a demon. But later on in the Christian, so she was initially sainted, but later on in the Christian church, they said, "No, this is not possible, not possible." So they desainted her. They stopped her. They took her out of the saint list because this is not real. This couldn't happen. It's just mythological, all this stuff. So in a similar thing that happens there in Christianity as well. And in the Vedic followers, they'll say there's so many wonderful things that happen or described in the Vedic literature. And for those who are Western or scientifically educated, it's difficult to understand. But unless God has superhuman, wonderful, transcendental qualities beyond our level of understanding, how can he be God? When I was a young boy, I've told this story a few times. I was in 3rd grade in the Midwest. I came from Indiana. And one day, the President of the United States came to visit the town because there was a university there where they had they were training up astronauts to go into space. So the president, so all the schools were let out, and they all went he had a procession down the main street there. So I was there, and many of my friends were there, and we saw the president riding by in a limousine And he was just an old bald guy with a suit, old white guy, old bald white guy with a suit. You know, I was so disappointed. This is the president. What kind of president? What kind of wonderful person is this?
Mhm.
So the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Parasya Shakti Vividaya Vishuyate, Swabhavika Jnana Bala Kriyacha. He has wonderful, amazing transcendental potencies. There's magic in his flute, in his activities. Not like the mundane people, but we think in this world that because we have only experienced, very limited things, that must be all there is. That's the frog in the well philosophy that we're stuck in. Thank you for that point. More,
Sure.
you're going to say more. You're going to say more.
Yeah, and to again mention what you mentioned on the day of Bhaktivinoda Thakur's appearance or disappearance, appearance probably, right?
Appearance, yeah.
So, those people who are making those statements, they are deeply impacting in ordinary people's life. I've noticed that.
Yes.
So they bring the revolution. Oh, yes. How can this is God? And one of the congregation members coming, we work in the same company. During lunchtime, we were sharing. So that person was sharing, how come Lord Ramchandra could do this? How come Lord Krishna could do this? So I could understand that, these are all influence of so many years of wrong education and not accepting bona fide teachings coming from parampara.
Yes.
As a devotee, we might fight, against it, or we may have some understanding, but it's not very easy for those who are non-devotees to contemplate on this. They will cite them very easily. Oh, yeah, they're saying right. They're saying right. So it's amazing. Not easy to convince people unless, as Krishna says, that it's my energy works very strongly. No one can come over it. So only by the devotional service one can know as he is. Bhaktyam abhijanati. So I think all credit goes to Srila Prabhupada actually, because we could have also been in the same boat.
We would be, yes, exactly. Very good point. And I think tomorrow is anniversary of Srila Prabhupada's appearance or arrival in the West, isn't it?
Is it tomorrow? I have the calendar here.
So, yeah. So this is a great day of celebration and wonder.
Hare
Bringing-
Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Yeah. So after hearing, listening the conversation between you and Krishna Kirtan Prabhu, I was just thinking, so that's why our acharyas and especially Srila Prabhupada said that we should go step by step, even while reading Srimad Bhagavatam, and not jump onto the 10th canto, because this might create doubts even in devotees. As when we hear such pastimes, we tend to get confused. But we all the time, as Shukdev Goswami also mentioned before the first shloka, while of Rasa Panchadhyay, Shri Bhagavan Pitaratri, when he's mentioning that Bhagavan is playing all these roles as all pastimes, as leelas. So the doubt always comes when we start comparing Krishna with or Balaram, these personalities, with ourselves, because we have material experience. So that's why doubts come into the mind. But as Prabhupada said and all Acharyas said, we should just go step by step. First understand the position of Lord, and then jump into the pastime. So I think when it happens, and I encounter these questions too, which Krishna Kirtan Prabhu was saying. So I always try to convince people that, it's not like that we hear one pastime, accept one pastime and reject the other. We are not looking at the pastime when Krishna is lifting Govardhan hill. And we are not looking at his superhuman pastimes of Krishna when he is drinking the forest fire. And he is doing all of those superhuman activities. But we are taking this Rasa Leela portion and we are trying to just making comments on that. So, and who are gopis, who these people are, before trying to understand this, we are just jumping onto the conclusion because we think that Lord and his servants all are like us. They are in the gross body, and so that's what I usually try to convince people whenever I encounter this question. So just wanted to share this thing.
Thank you. Well said. Hare Krishna. Thank you all. Praninath Prabhu, you have a comment?
No, Prabhuji. Thank you.
Oh, okay. Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhyeva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.